Streets and Roads is, the proposal for one additional labor position. The Public Works Department actually requested two. I do, buildings and grounds, we had one additional for maintenance. We have, thanks to the state of New Jersey, a new stormwater management permit that will be implemented over the next few years, and we already have a lot of requirements for stormwater. They're only getting greater. So we have a lot of work to do on our end. Our engineering department has a lot of work, but a lot of the physical work related to stormwater, the stormwater permit falls on Public Works. So we have included in the budget one additional full-time laborer in the department. The other changes that you see, the other really significant increases in the various accounts, for instance, traffic control signage, asphalt material, those increases are primarily related to inflationary impacts. So when you see increases in those costs in those various line items, it's just because the price of those goods have gone up drastically over a 1 year period. So you'll see those changes that are in there. But I will, I'll stop at this point, see if council has any specific questions about any individual line items in Streets and Roads.
Any comments from anybody? Yeah, Fred?
John, we've taken down more trees in Roxbury in the last 2 years than I've ever seen as a result of the ash trees. This indicates on here under tree removal, which is subsection 205 of the budget, that we only expended $14,000 last year. We brought down hundreds of trees. Is that right? Is that number correct?
It depends where they're coming from. So some of the trees we removed have been from open space, right? So if we're doing any open space tree removal, it comes out of that account. If it comes out of street trees, I believe some of those were even taken out of the storm.
We took some out of the storm fund also, yes, a great deal of them. We did two, purchase orders, both of them were charging some of it to, I'm sorry, we were charging some of it to open space and some of it to the tree fund.
So it just depends.
Okay, so what we're saying is part of the money is coming out of this line item, but it's also coming out of our tree fund and other areas?
Correct.
Storm reimbursement.
That's correct.
This pot of money is generally speaking used as more of an emergency basis. The trees we can't schedule, so when they come down, this is what those funds are used for.
I think to Fred's point, we increased this a few years ago because of the ash trees. I'm wondering if this is not a, number that's necessary. Because.
This is not, I don't mean to cut you off. It's not specifically related to ash trees. I'm sure Rick can elaborate more, but this isn't specifically.
No, I know that, but I think we increased the budget because of the ash tree.
Rick, go ahead.
Yeah, we don't have as many ash trees, well, we don't expect as many ash trees on the streets any longer. We project our future expenses related to ash gonna be, more related to open space. This line item would have been spent further last year, except, we had a freeze going on, so we didn't spend some of this money and use other funds just to protect, our operating budget, overall. But this is for pretty much non-ash trees, just other trees that we encounter, with sidewalk work or, other just general maintenance of trees.
Mayor, I'm sorry, it's hard to ascertain whether or not this number is actually correct, John. I'm not trying to be picky here, but if it's coming from 3 different sources, how do we know that 50,000 is a good number?
Right.
Help me here.
Well, it's one of those situations where you don't know until you need it or you don't need it, right? So sometimes some of these budget numbers, if we don't use them, then we don't use them. But there are other times that if we run into a situation where we need the funding, then we end up being a little bit short. We have to pull from somewhere else. So could we reduce that line item by a certain amount? We could. But later in the year, if we end up in a situation where we need to do work, we don't want to not do what we need to do because we don't have the funds. If it's a safety concern.
Clearly, that's fine. Mayor, can I just flag that one for later on?
Yes, I just wrote it down too, so, please write
John, can you just explain, sub-account 202 to me? It's a significant increase over the last several years. Just what is it?
Yeah, this is traffic control, traffic signs, correct? Yeah, I think this is primarily related to the increase in the cost per sign. So any of the signs that we put up, various, right, nothing specific throughout town, the cost of the actual sign is increased. So, Steve, if you have that number, or just the, if that's Ray or Rick, I'll let you confirm that, but I believe just the cost is increased per sign.
It's material increases, obviously, as they age as well, we're replacing them throughout town, so.
So it's that time of like replacing signs that we've put up.
Yeah, or if we need new ones, depending on what they are, but unfortunately,
There's
there's
a
some of those.
replacement is that's part of the significant increase.
Right, and some of the costs are just, again, we don't know what we're going to need to replace, you know, you end up with we get phone calls and someone's street sign's been knocked down, so a stop sign's been knocked down, it's just, you know, we do a lot of those sorts of replacements where things get knocked down more than just they fade away, not that that doesn't happen, but a lot of these are just because, things get knocked over by vehicles, I guess, or accidents.
It's the amount, you understand the increased cost, and you go from the expended and the adopted amounts over the last few years, this is a big jump.
Right, some of the expended, and Rick said that earlier, you know, some of the expended in 2022 may be a little bit misleading because, you know, as the year progressed and we had concerns about some of our expenditures, we didn't spend money as the year got towards the end.
I'm looking at 3 year.
Right, understood.
1 year, last year with the increase in, different projects that we have to do with trees, I totally get that, and that's potential. I'm talking about expended and, adopted years prior.
Right.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
John, when we talked about the traffic control signs, we've been talking about doing bike lanes and putting some signage in. Is there money in there to do that this year?
It would come out of there. It's the same line item. We don't have anything specific for bike lanes or share the road sort of sign, so it would come out of that same line item.
And do we have enough confidence in there to go ahead and do that?
Yeah, we could do, I mean, we certainly could do a road or two. We couldn't do 20 roads in town, and we wouldn't have the money for that signage wise. We can certainly do a few. We talked about maybe doing a few as a pilot program.
Maybe on the guide rail repair, someone has an insurance company pays for guide rail, or we end up paying?
If we're able to figure out who did it, we bill them. But a lot of the times, unfortunately, especially with tractor trailers, just kind of run things over and just keep going. Like, for instance, a lot of times you see the one near, the intersection of Mary Louise and Ryder Road kind of crushed. Tractor trailers just drive over and keep going. So we replace that a lot, and we don't know who did that. But if we know when our property is damaged in an accident, whether it's a traffic light, fire hydrants we've had hit, we've had guide rail hit, we bill the insurance company accordingly.
I'm just wondering, we have 20,000, where we only expended 1,100 last year.
Yeah, some of these costs, you're gonna see it through road department. We had a transfer of $155,000 out of the road, the road department last year. So some of these costs are carryover from the work that did not get done in 2022.
Which we completely understand, so that would be the 2023 request and recommended, but I think, he's looking at 2020, 2021, 2022, back at the, so, not 22 could be back prior to that, gives us some guidance. There was a deep drop off we had that was probably transferred to another, accounting line.
If I could, on the guardrails,
Go ahead, Rick.
yeah, the guardrails, we have 7 specific locations identified for this $20,000, so these are, sometimes they're a single repair, sometimes they're a guardrail if they hit a few times, but we've identified 7 locations, where this $20,000 will be spent, that is not covered by insurance.
And my last question, education, what are we doing this year in education with double?
So I believe that's related to CDL licenses for employees that need to obtain our CDL license.
Thank you.
And unfortunately, the cost for that has gone up significantly.
Yeah, we do a joint program with Mount Olive on that.
We have a shared service agreement with Mount Olive. Unfortunately, right after we entered that agreement, their person that was trained to do that resigned. So we still have the agreement in place. Hopefully, they will have someone else that's able to do that in the future, but the timing couldn't have been worse for us and for Mount Olive.
We pay for our employees to get a CDL.
If they're willing
Of course,
to.
and if they want to, we pay for that.
Yes. Yeah, and actually, their union pays a portion of it. they'll pay a portion, they have union scholarship program that they're eligible for, so they're actually able to get some of that money reimbursed through their union, since it's an enhancement for a union member. But we'll also pay part of it if they're willing to get it. CDL drivers are at the premium.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Any other questions on, streets and roads? Okay, I made a couple notes I'm gonna go back to later. Snow and ice,
I think we maintain that as is. Totally about.
Yes, we did.
Of course, we're doing good this year.
I'm just passing some info along for that Rick gave me earlier, we're about 3,000 tons in this portion of the season, we're only at 900, so we're doing pretty good this year.
so this is one I brought up a year or two, a couple years ago, I think, about the accumulation of the snow and ice fund, and to spend that, because just to build up money in something, you're never gonna get a storm that's gonna last 6 months. So the idea is to have that as an emergency, so try to find a plateau, or
Right.
average is 250 or whatever that, so when we have low years, it goes into the fund, we have high years, we pull it from the fund, not have it accumulate. So where are we now? with that?
Actually, we did very good last year of using the snow trust. We started off 2021, with 162,000 in there. I'm sorry, we spent in 2021, 162,000 out of there. And in 2022, we spent 156. This year, as we ended the year, the snow trust balance is 179,869. And we have decided to transfer, 100,000 back into the trust fund, bringing us back up. We'll just be just over, I think it was it 150 you wanted to keep it at, or 250? I can't remember.
Yeah, we do have the target policy, I don't recall what it is off the top of my head, but we do have the target policy. What we're looking to get in there to maintain it.
So you're,
So we spent 156,000 from the snow trust last year, which is about what we had, our target was, is we're about to spend about 150 each year.
yeah, so we brought down our snow plow budgeted amount, knowing that that would use it.
Yes.
So it continues, so the 125 is the number we talked about last year?
I thought we had talked about spending at least 150 of the budget of the trust out of that account each year.
How much is left in the trust now?
Right now, the amount left in the trust is 179.
170.
Yes, and we're transferring another 100,000 into there from our surplus this year, so it'll be 279.
Is that how it's done? We don't just, that can happen that way, just transfer from the trust?
What we do is, when I just heard back from our auditors, we will do a resolution to you guys to let you know that we're transferring $100,000 from the trust, into that account. So that's forthcoming.
And then we'll bring another 255,000?
No, this year's operating. But that $100,000 isn't reflected here, right?
Well, it's not reflected here, no, it's not reflected in the budgeted amount. We budgeted exactly what we did last year. So we didn't increase the snow and ice budget, and we're utilizing the trust as much as we can to kind of offset it, so that we kind of stay,
That's only if we do it, if we do.
yes.
We're anticipating that. I guess it's much on Rick, considering where we are this year, is that where you think we're gonna be? That's the number that we.
I know this number does go up and down.
Yeah,
obviously, depending on
that's why we
seasons.
created the trust.
So I know this portion of the year we're doing well, but that's obviously, we have another half of the year on the back end of this calendar year.
No, I'm just trying to figure out where the budgeted amount should be, right, that, finding that balance, since we weren't doing that before, we don't have a clear number.
We have to anticipate the fall.
I wish I could.
Any comments? Snow and ice?
I'm still confused with some of these numbers, if you can help me out. You just said that it's 179,000 in this snow trip, and transfer 100 to 179. We're trying to keep 150 in there as a.
We're trying to use 150 out of there each year.
We're trying to use 150 of that, okay. So it's the intent would be the other $139,000 there, or is the intent to move that someplace else? Is this 279
so it's gonna be 279.
Got that. And we're just gonna leave it there.
We will use it if we need to. We do use it if we need to,
So you're talking about 2022, we're trying to generate 1,000 into it,
yes.
so that's where I guess I'm questioning if that's needed.
If we need to transfer the 100,000, is that what you're saying?
Cause that's gonna bring us back up, kinda like where we were before. You said something about spending 150 out of it at one point.
Yeah, we spent 156, 30, 156, roughly 156,000 last year.
I mean, the other thing we could look at is we could transfer those funds into the trust, and we could look at whether we could reduce the amount that we have in operator.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we could-
If we don't transfer that amount, this number can come down.
Or if we do, if we transfer it in, we probably could then reduce the amount in the operating.
Correct, for this year.
Right, correct.
Yeah, that's
We
what-
could look at that, we could spend some time and maybe look at that, kind of see where we are. You know, obviously, it's almost the end of February, we look pretty good for snow. We obviously have the fall, as Steve mentioned, but the fall is usually not our big issue, it's just getting through usually the month of December, a little bit of November. So we can look at that again and bring something back to council that, you know, maybe we could tighten that number up a little bit.
Yeah, I think winters have been obviously less, impactful the last few years, but again, still trying to find that number. I want the trust to be there to help us, not just to build it up.
Right.
So,
And that's what we tried to do.
Right.
but at 250, that's almost a year's worth, right? More than a half a year's worth of snow and ice. So does it have to be at that much, what's the carryover? We're not gonna transfer that amount.
Well,
That would just be-
like, if you think of it this way, if we have it at 250, we use 100,000, then we're kind of keeping it at 150,
If-
if we use it.
well,
Which I generally tend to use it, I mean, if I need it, I'll use it.
well, only if we go above budget approval.
It depends, because, like last year, we had a lot of snow early on in the year, and we started to run out of our temporary budget, so I was using the snow and ice then. This year, we haven't had that problem, because we've had such nice weather.
How about if we take a look at that?
Yeah, I think we should. do
Look,
that.
we certainly understand what council's saying.
Good, good.
So let us take a look at it, maybe see if we can tighten that up, and, you know, by the time we meet again, it'll be the first week of March.
Okay. We'll look at that. Right, thanks.
We'll look at that one.
Next is, Public Works.
Yeah, I'm just getting down to that. I think the public works budget looks pretty similar to last year's. Just seeing if anything jumps out at me there.
Brush
I think the brush compost is the biggest increase in cost, and Steve, I don't know if that's just quantity or that's some actual disposal costs, or just quantity.
It's disposal cost, transportation cost to remove the materials, that's skyrocketed. Between fuel costs and labor rates for trucking fees, it's gone up significantly, and we obviously shop that, so that's gone up quite a bit in the past year.
Sub account 219, we have a note on the side, includes WO programs.
So, this is related to the work order program. So there's
Yeah.
Public Works is looking to add a work order program.
Yes.
For various reasons. So currently, we're operating work orders off of paper. It's not the most efficient way, to obviously delegate work or record information. So this is gonna help us on many different levels, from FEMA events to daily, work order sheets and, task assignments. This will also help us do a bunch of other things related to stormwater management, obviously, as the new regulations just recently released, so we have to do a bunch of different things in there where we have to track that information, and this will help us significantly do that.
We're gonna break that out with our two utilities, they can also use the work order system, so sewer and water can also utilize that for work that they have, so that, you know, has a cost sharing benefit for the town, so it's part of it coming out of current.
Is this a share with those?
Correct, yeah, it's in
This is
the,
only a portion of it.
that's correct, yeah, it's also water and sewer, cause they can use it, they have a lot of work too, they have a lot of GIS, they have a lot of work that can be in the work order system. A lot of theirs is site specific for things that are doing in different locations.
John, is this a cloud-based?
It is.
I believe it is.
It is.
Yeah.
This is an annual fee that, it's not a seat-based program, so we can have unlimited seats, unlimited departments in town to utilize.
And that's where it really seems to work for other utilities to help in cost sharing. And of course, they can benefit from
Have we
it.
seen other towns use this program?
Several.
You guys are.
It's public works costs,
Departments?
Say again?
Water, sewer, water.
Yeah, correct,
Public works.
correct.
Is that an annual cost? Annual cost. So,
About $1,200 a month.
I'm not familiar with it, I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I don't. That's calculating it, it's 4,000, 4 feet away, it's about 12,000, 13,000, probably around $1,200 a month.
Yeah, the program is split between 3 different departments. The total cost is $13,000 annually. Obviously, our public works portion here is $4,400. I will say that this program, we looked into a lot of different programs, and one of the big reasons is financially, I think this program makes the most sense, and it does the most for the township for the cost of the program. There was obviously other programs out there, but they were significantly more expensive than what this program offers.
Can you send over some information to at least the members of the computer committee, to at least take a look at it?
Sure.
They don't need to get together, but maybe independently, they can get you on the phone or something.
Yeah, we'll do that.
I'll defer to them. Right?
Just out of curiosity, items 270 and 271, Steve, is it one spot for recycling disposal and one spot for brush composting? In other words, are there different areas that you can bring the recycling to, or is it just one specific area?
So, you can bring them to other areas, but the further you travel, obviously the cost increases because of the trucking costs. So generally speaking, the closer facility is gonna be the more reasonable of the options.
And that's what we're dealing with here, where we're basically bringing it to the closest possible
Yes,
center.
yes.
Where is it?
The compost facility,
Rick, do you have a location of compost?
Yeah, the compost facility is the county facility over in Mount Olive.
That's close.
Yeah, and the recycling facility is in Mine Hill, so we're as close as we can get to those two facilities.
My question's answered, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, so we'll get that information to the computer committee and move on. Sanitation recycling, it's contracted. I don't think there's anything really to discuss here.
No, we're still in the Blue Diamond contract. I think we're in year 2.
Any comments, questions? Seeing none. Buildings and ground. Yes, sir.
Can you change the ordinance that's somewhere in here, John, for the extra pickups?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, we did the holiday pickups, the additional holiday pickups.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure the number's in there.
I got you.
We're recycling, correct.
Moving ahead to buildings and ground.
I don't think there's anything, there's some pieces in here, keep in mind the, wages have gone up from last year. We have 2 full-time people now. Last year we budgeted for this, we didn't have that. I think we had 1 for part of the year, so we have 2 full-time people in maintenance, building maintenance. And I think some of the other cost increases are contractual, some ideas of some of the things that might go up for us. We have some either current agreements that the price goes up, we have some bids out on the street for depending on what it is, whether it's janitorial or whether it's related to, grounds maintenance.
Yeah, this department bothers me. It's a huge increase. And I get the cost increases in some things, but it looks line item by line item, it seems a little out of whack. Unless there's some specific job, fire extinguisher, sprinkler service.
I can go through whatever line item you'd like. I can start with the salaries to explain that more. So last year we budgeted for the additional, salary and additional title. We had a transfer from one department, from the road department into the buildings and ground department, so there's actually gonna be a net decrease in the road department because of that. This line item looks like it obviously exponentially increased, but it was just a transfer of a title. So it's still one full-time position, but there's an older rate, a newer rate, so
Did we budget for that position?
we did budget for it, but it was less than the person who transferred.
It was, the thought was someone was gonna come from the outside. So when that person comes from the road department, they maintain their wage. So as Steve said, then that reduces the road department, so that benefit, if someone comes from the outside from the road department at the new scale instead of the old scale, so theirs actually could go down. So it just shows in buildings rather than roads, same number of people.
But roads is where you have the increase of a person.
Right, but you can see the increase of the person, you can see how small the increase is in the overall budget going up for the year compared to last year.
So is this an increase in total number, or is this a replacement for the person who transferred?
Buildings and grounds is
Same number of people.
same number of people,
Two.
no increase aside from some numbers might look different than last year, but it was already budgeted in 22's budget.
But
The
it
salary.
doesn't reflect it in buildings and grounds for salary.
The decrease? The decrease was reflected in the road department, obviously there was this increase in the buildings and grounds department,
I know, yeah, I can see it, I know.
but there's no additional staff in buildings and grounds in 23. It remains, status quo for 22.
There's something lost in translation because, we adopted a budget for 316, which I'm hearing is contractual services that we brought with our employee by transfer home. This year, we're looking at an increase of $120,000.
Right, and it's in different places, that increase.
So I'm leaving this open.
So that, the number,
Explain to me, if you don't mind, sorry, Jim. With 206 contracted services,
Double.
what is that?
so we have generator repairs in there, they've been increasing. The rates for those increases have gone up, and the prices have gone up significantly, so that's basically reflective of, that's the larger portion of it. It's also carried over from 22 again, we didn't do some of the repairs, the upgrades as we anticipated. So electrical repairs and upgrades is a line item in there for $7,000 in the backup sheet. That's to bring some of our facilities, up to LED standards, as many of our other facilities in town are. So there's some carryover costs as well.
Do we have a program that came through town last year?
That, it wasn't inclusive of some of the buildings, just because it didn't financially benefit us to do that, we would have lowered the incentives for other portions of the program.
Well, we've done that incentive twice, we just use it while looking into a third incentive.
This program is a little bit different, so this one we have to fund up front, and there could be a reimbursement, but there's no guarantee of reimbursement.
Well, I think there's a few line items that air conditioning, HVAC, fire extinguishers, and sprinkler services. I just think this, let me ask the question once about the streets and roads. You asked for a new employee for streets, right? But you just transfer somebody on the streets.
Right.
Come here.
Right.
That person backfilled already?
Yes.
In streets? Okay, so this is not a replacement, this is a new employee.
In the street department, in
Yeah.
roads, that's correct. Last year, we did the budget, the adopted budget in 2022 included 2 people in building grounds and maintenance. And we currently have 2 people. So there's no additional people.
I guess this just isn't adding up to me right now, so let's skip it, because, John, I'd like you to take a look at this, again, and maybe explain it to us a little better, and then we'll
Okay.
talk about it again.
All right, sounds good.
Sorry, it's just,
Understood.
I'm seeing these looks with multiple faces, so I'd like to revisit that. Yes.
John, on 208 contract renewal, how does this work? Do we put out a bid that says a spot's gonna be done, I don't think I know, 12 times during the year?
There is,
And
there's,
then we pay 12, or do we say, the times you do it, you send us something that says you did that spot?
there's a frequency in the bid, but you only get paid if you do it.
Okay, so we keep track of not only the frequency we put in the contract, but that it's been done, and we only pay on the ones that have been done.
We get an invoice that you guys look at that has specifically what was done that's paid off of that. We can check that just to make sure that the vendor's being accurate in their description of what they've done, but it's in there specifically, it's not
I
just.
wanna make sure we have a place to check, cause I've had calls from residents saying, you know, this hasn't been done for a time. And I know it's something that's on a frequency schedule.
Right, and we can
Every
check
6
that.
weeks, and it could have been just because of when it was done.
Right.
I just wanna make sure we have the information.
Yes.
There's certainly a lot of variables, weather-wise, with the mowing cycle, and some areas are not every week, they're every other week, so in those heavy growing season months and weeks, it might look worse than other areas just because of where it fell in the cycle. The current vendor that we have, obviously this is out to bid at the moment, they do provide a check sheet of where they were with the date, and when they mowed that area, as well as we have internal documents that, check those areas.
And
And when they were done.
any new vendor we have is gonna keep that kind of policy,
Correct.
we're gonna have that policy. in
That's
place.
correct.
Thank you.
Any other comments, before we move on? We're gonna come back to this category. So that'll take us to equipment repair. Sorry, just making a note of that.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any specific questions, this is the same sort of thing some of the other budgets have, some of the increases, there's no new staff, anything like that. Some of it's just maybe based on some of the actual costs associated with, materials, things of that nature, supplies. If there are any specific questions on line items, we can answer those.
Comments, questions? Brief. Is that all for bricks?
Just parks and
We have parks maintenance. So if we can jump to parks maintenance, that would be good. Again, I believe we have the same number of employees in parks, no change there. And again, some of the line items may be increased, again, just based on some of the projected costs. Steve's very familiar with this budget, if anybody has any particular questions on any of the line items.
Good.
208, is that saving up for the refurb?
Correct. So that's, we have obviously turf management program in town, and that's so last year we did field 11. This is to do a little bit smaller scale of the project, do some goal analysis, center of the field areas. So we anticipate doing one of the fields at Horseshoe Lake this year through that operating line item.
This bring turf down, but not doing the whole.
Sod.
field. Sod.
Yeah, this is just to redo some sod areas that are worn down.
Change that to side.
Yeah, can we change that to say?
People look at that and turf field.
Okay, we will make that change.
On the cover sheet?
We'll make it in the budget, yeah, Lenore can make that one, we'll update that. We'll stay that way for the future then.
Guess they all had good work this year.
Any other comments on, park maintenance? Seeing none? What else is yours, Rick?
I think that's
That's
it.
all we got for me.
Yeah, that's it from Rick and Steve.
Steve? Now you know why he doesn't want to come to these meetings.
So we can go to, with Brett Douglas, who's here, we can go to, things within his purview, so that's recreation, and as I mentioned, there's also
Just recreation?
senior, and then also, social services, if there are any questions about those. So I'm gonna let Brett come up while Steve gets his stuff. I'll talk to you later. Rick, I'll talk to you later.
John, I'll say good night.
All right, I'm gonna drop you off.
Good.
All right, bye-bye.
Take care.
I'm sorry, what two did you wanna do now?
I was gonna go to, there may not be any questions, of public assistance.
What page is it?
That is
Help me.
134.
Thank you. Yeah, so there's not a lot here, I mean, it's just again, I try to touch all the accounts just in case council would have a question. But, this is pretty straightforward, it's just our public assistance account, which is really just our staff, nothing's really changing there, you'll see those numbers look pretty similar to last year.
What's the account number?
It's 01-27-245. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on that one. Again, it stays pretty consistent.
Just an observation, this is a $0 entry up. We have a lot of very, very good products that are responsible, it's $0. Very hard.
Absolutely. A lot of good assistance and a lot of good, donations from the residents, businesses, it's just phenomenal. So, that's,
And I also like the look of it now. The entry's really expensive.
it's certainly getting cleaned up. Just-
Next category?
So we can do quickly, just, senior citizens activities, because again, Brett gets to work with our senior groups. And, I think that's staying relatively the
Materials
same.
and supply, what's that for?
I'm sorry?
Materials and supply.
Yeah, material and supply, we have included in there for this year a new bingo machine for the seniors. The, two senior groups, we're hoping to get the existing one, I think, fixed again, and I think it's a 1960s vintage machine. So, we're going to, purchase a new one, Brett was able to get one, and, he's able to get one that they'll still like, it's not too digitized and modern.
Believe me, we've been discussing that.
So, we certainly, Jackie does a great job with it, and Brett does too, and he kind of wants to make sure they like what we're gonna get.
Oh, there was
So,
something.
that's why that's such an increase in there for the bingo machine.
It doesn't have to be at one time.
It's a
That's why it's
one-time,
highlighted, so we remember to take it down.
Perfect.
just one time.
And they thank us very much.
Thank you.
They use it, they use it. So we can then move to recreation.
Leisure activities, Rick?
Recreation, is it my budget first?
Recreation before that, I'm sorry.
Anybody help me pay for it?
147 is the salary.
Yeah, then 148,
is the
148,
actual.
yeah, thank you, Bill. So 148, no changes there, staffing, those things stay the same. I think their budget stays pretty consistent. There's one item in red, special activity, I think we moved that out of there, right? It was something about, there was some budget, item, we just moved it, so,
Moved it to leisure.
yeah. But you'll see, this stays relatively consistent, the recreation budget.
Move on to leisure activity.
So looking at leisure, again, we have all of our staff in there, there's all of our camps and seasonal activities. Then, of course, we have all of our budgets for the various, programs that are operated through Brett's department. And, really good job on, if you see when you see the revenue side of this, the revenue side of this matches up really well with the expenditure side. We talked about that before. We talk about that every time we do the fee ordinance adjustments.
Yes, we don't see the expenditures in there. Maybe my page is old.
No, the way leisure is, it's one line item, 202. So it's, Brett, we do track them, so there's a report that we come out with that tracks all of the different programs. We know exactly how much each program expends. But the way it is accounting wise in the admin system, it all comes out of the 202 line item.
No, but there's no expenditures on this piece of paper, showing it all.
At the way bottom, the
It's
total
just total.
expended
It's
is
total.
188, 164.
It's not by program, it's just total out. So then you have to, then see that on top, there's the expenditure for the staff. So you have to kind of put those two together to make it make sense. If not, it would look like we generated a lot more, you know, on the revenue side even than the expenditure side. So. But that, that's working really well. The programs are doing a very good job funding themselves in general.
I have one question. Maybe it's budget wise, I did get a question, at the senior meeting. They wanted to know why the concession stand was not fully stocked at the end of the season.
So for this, snack stand at Horseshoe Lake, we did a great job of making sure that we didn't overspend, to make sure that we were right on number by the end of the season.
You know,
Right, and also the staffing, I'm thinking the staffing at the end, did we lose a lot of people to college?
Absolutely.
Because they were, that was another thing.
Yeah.
So that, we got both of those questions this past Thursday.
And for us, our school district as well, our students went back to school
Right.
earlier than they have been in the past as well too.
Okay.
You know, a few years ago, when Brett's been here a few years, one of the things he did was an analysis of concession, and we were losing money, and, we're not losing money anymore, which is good. We changed around some of the menu options, and, we still try to serve people, but, you know, we were subsidizing the concession stand with general tax dollars, which probably isn't something we would collectively want to do, so we've switched that around.
Very good. No, I can advance.
Ms. Earl?
You know, one thing that doesn't show up on here is, Sean probably, Sean and also is the, non-academic revenue side of it. There's an enormous amount of time looking at our fee structures there, it's not neighboring, municipalities. And, kudos, you guys do a great job doing that. It's fair, it's accurate.
Appreciate it.
I have nothing to add, but correct. Spent a lot of time on it, but correct.
Mr. Crowley?
Just wanna say, Brett, you know, I look at the list of all these things, you know, we see some things, we see some football, we see some lacrosse, we see first some soccer. But I was amazing talking to you and going through all the different things that have to be scheduled, like the summer camps and beach blast and trying to get, and I just wanna say, you did a great job getting all these things together. It's not 5 items, looks like it's about 50 items, and I'm sure every day, I'm changing the day.
We,
Shovels involved.
Ryan and I, we had probably 20 changes today.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, any other categories?
Yeah, we have a few more, that's it for Brett tonight, so.
Thank you.
No other
Thank you.
professional, no other staff members here for it.
No, that's correct.
So there's a lot of people here, so I'm gonna pause here.
Okay.
For first,
Sounds good, thank you, Brett.
closing session. Thanks, Brett. You're welcome. So we're gonna step away from the proposed operating budget for now. Matters requested referred by council members, manager, attorney, and clerk, we have none. Brings us to our first public portion. If anybody in the public wishes to be heard, please raise your hand. Yes, ma'am. Name and address for the record, please.
My council members, Ariel Mizrahi at 12 Rogers Drive. Thank you in advance for your attention. My name is Ariel Mizrahi, founder and CEO of Bud to Bloom, an aspiring cannabis retail business with a conditional license. I'm here today to voice my support for Roxbury to pass a new ordinance to allow for responsible legal cannabis retail in Roxbury. I'd like to remind the members of the council that 64% of Roxbury residents voted in favor of legalizing cannabis. I believe that in order for our community to truly thrive, it is imperative that we work together to communicate and collaborate with each other so that we can meet the social, commercial, and economic needs of our neighbors. If permitted to operate in Roxbury, I would be proud to see my business 2% local tax add to the financial resources of the township. This could be used to support so many important initiatives that the township simply doesn't have the money for right now. For example, the Roxbury Art Alliance has requested $2,000 to support the summer concert series, but it wasn't included in the proposed 2023 operating budget due to limited resources. That is the sort of initiative that could really use additional tax revenue, and cannabis businesses could generate that without any further tax burdens to our residents. Here with me tonight are residents of Roxbury Township and neighboring communities. They have come in a good faith effort to show the council that we have the support of our community to bring licensed cannabis businesses like Bud to Bloom to Roxbury Township. While there are many different reasons why the members of our community would like to see cannabis businesses allowed to operate within Roxbury, we all share one common motivation. We all want to inspire, empower, and invest in the community in which we live. Thank you. Gail.
Anybody else in public wish to do this? Name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Rachel Smith, 6 Garden Court in Sarcasina. So my name is Rachel Smith. I was born, raised, and educated in Roxbury. And I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you in advance for your time and attention. I'm here to voice my support for Roxbury allowing cannabis businesses in town. I am no stranger to opportunities present in Roxbury. I graduated from RHS in 2016 as president of General Student Council and editor of the Roxbury Review. I received the Senior Principal's Cup for outstanding service to the school, and I went on to the College of New Jersey, where I continued my studies and graduated magna cum laude with degrees in communications and women gender studies. And like many of my peers, it was near impossible to find a job in the 2020 lockdown. But luckily for me, at the same time, the regulated cannabis industry in New Jersey was emerging, and I was able to secure a job as a cannabis license application writer for the Aubrey Group. It's a woman-owned business based in Elizabeth, New Jersey. In my experience, the cannabis industry is overflowing with innovation and opportunity, and it's an exciting time where towns like Roxbury have a chance to set the standard and foster a new age workforce. If you had asked me when I was growing up in Roxbury what I wanted to be when I grew up, I probably wouldn't have said a cannabis application writer, but that's because the opportunity was never presented to me. Instead, what Roxbury gave me was the knowledge, opportunity, and skill sets I needed to ultimately be able to say yes to a job like this. You have the talent here already, but we have to talk about what it takes to keep it here. I have friends and acquaintances my age that have found jobs developing organic soil matter or specialized packaging materials, as paralegals in law firms that service this industry, as marketing coordinators for brand consulting companies, or as bookkeepers in specialized accounting firms. I don't want my hometown to miss out on bringing energy, attention, and new jobs to Roxbury. Therefore, I ask the City Council to consider amending the current ordinance that makes cannabis a prohibited use. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you. Anybody else in public, please raise your hand. Name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Gail Smith, 6 Garden Court, Sarcasina. I've been a loyal Roxbury resident for nearly 30 years, and both my children were raised through the school district and have gone on to achieve success that Roxbury can be proud of. 10 years ago, I was in a bad car accident actually in town, and it ultimately left me permanently disabled with chronic back pain. Over the past decade, I've had multiple surgeries, including a discectomy, a hip replacement, epidurals, and a back fusion in 2018. I will be scheduling a second back fusion in the near future. Every time I would have surgery or go for an appointment to the orthopedist and ask what I could do to relieve the pain after having gone through physical therapy and so forth, it was always opioids. It was always a painkiller or muscle relaxers. I would take them when I would need them. They would give me sometimes a little relief, but it was never consistent relief. I didn't want to keep taking the opioids, obviously. And in 2021, I applied for a medical marijuana card in hopes that the medical marijuana might be that miracle alternative that I needed so badly. I've experienced the most success with topical treatments, but I also prefer THC lozenges or gummies to oxycodone any day. As we all know, there's a horrible opioid epidemic going on in the country, and it just seems like the most common sense alternative. The issue now is that I'm obviously still not cured, and the nearest medical marijuana dispensary is 45 minutes drive away. The lack of access to non-addictive pain relief alternatives affects me daily and would often result in large gaps in my pain relief, because it was just too much for me to travel to the dispensary due to the pain. If Roxbury allowed recreational dispensaries like Bud to Bloom to operate locally, I would have much more of an accessible alternative than I would be able to access much more easily. Just quick background, when I would go to the medical marijuana dispensary, the security was amazing. You would go in, stand right in the vestibule. There would be a few people behind the desk. They would show you a menu, quote unquote, of what you would want. That you'd have to show your card, of course, at the time, and they would check it. You could not get in the actual dispensary. It was locked. You had to get buzzed in. So you would place your order in the outer vestibule. When it was time for you to pay and they had your order ready, they would buzz you into the dispensary. The bud tenders there, the people that work there, very knowledgeable, and I just think there's still such a stigma with some people about medical marijuana and cannabis and the good that it does for so many people, whether it be for pain, for anxiety, whatever. I just think that people should try and maybe rethink their position on the subject. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Gail.
Anybody else in public who's here? Yes, ma'am. Name and address for the record.
Savannah Vogel, 14 William Street, Tuckahoe. Thank you. Good evening, council members. My name is Savannah, and I'm a resident of Roxbury Township and also a licensed social worker in Morris County. I'm here tonight to ask the council to consider changing the ordinance that prohibits cannabis businesses like Bud to Bloom from operating within Roxbury Township. Allowing cannabis businesses in Roxbury would provide residents with access to legal lab-tested cannabis, also promoting a harm reduction method. By banning cannabis businesses, the city is indirectly encouraging adult residents to purchase illegal products, which puts our community at risk by indirectly allowing the circulation of untested products by illicit drug dealers. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public? Please raise your hand. Yes, sir.
How y'all doing? My name's Tony Bruno from Randolph, New Jersey. I'm here to support Bud and Bloom to become an operating business in Roxbury. Not only because I believe it's going to be the future to help for individuals for medical reasons and recreational reasons, but also because Ariel is a great businesswoman. She helps her father with his business, so she understands business already. This is her passion. Also, my position right now is a salesperson for Motorola Solutions. What I do is I provide physical securities for police, education, commercial business, you name it. I help vendors provide security for us as civilians. We've talked about this and how her store helped the community to be a safe haven with facial recognition, license plate recognition. If this is a concern of safety, her business of operation will not be a place for criminals. It will actually allow the police department to have access to her physical security. She's willing to work with the police, so if anybody's scared that opening up a cannabis business is going to bring more crime. I will argue that because I have worked with several towns to open up dispensaries before. So, they're working really well with the police, and, again, like I said, I just think you guys have a great opportunity to work with her and to, mold it together and help out the community to help it shape it for what both of you guys want it to be. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else in the public, please raise your hand. Yes, sir.
How you doing? Chandler Shea, 123 Ledwood Ave. I'll keep it short and sweet. I'm here to support the whole licensing of the cannabis business and the changing of the ordinances that you guys may have. But I would like to highlight the women behind me that this is for. You guys would have the great opportunity of having leaders like this, young generation, portray into the future what this industry could be about. They're young, they're driven, they're open-minded, and they're so independently minded women that are so strong, and it'd be a mistake if you don't go there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public, wish to be heard? Yes, sir. And have this for the record, please.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. My name is Scott Mizrahi. I live at 40 Faramonte Avenue in Kenville. I've been here for 28 years. I respect Roxbury, and I like the town I live in. I commend Roxbury Council for their leadership in strategically choosing an initial wait-and-see leadership in approach to cannabis businesses. Now that the state has issued complete regulations and we can see how the licensure process has rolled out in other towns, I believe that the time has come for Roxbury to take the next step forward. Therefore, I'm here tonight to ask the council to permit licensed cannabis businesses like Bud to Bloom the opportunity to operate within our town. By allowing cannabis businesses to operate in Roxbury Township, there are opportunities for economic development, beautification in communities, and job creation. Cannabis retail businesses like Bud to Bloom can produce millions in reliable annual revenue, generating 2% of gross sales, which is added to your budgets for the years. Every $1 million spent means $20,000 in tax revenue. Plus we can add application fees, and some towns as high as $25,000 per year. So it's revenue to the towns. Ariel's my daughter. I respect what she's trying to do. She just needs the ability to have a township agree with her. I own a business, which is an HVAC business. We're involved in that odor mitigation, and we're doing it for some licensed businesses that are going to be coming up in Jersey City. She has nothing but the right intention. She wants to bring that out to Roxbury. She would also like to bring out her elements, which are yoga and holistic things. So it's not just cannabis, there are other things that she can bring. The more that she brings to the business, the more people she brings to the business, the more it comes to the community, and they spend more within the community. Give her a chance. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public, wish to be heard on any issue, please raise your hand. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, council members. My name is Maddie Grant. I'm one of the partners of Bud to Bloom. I handle compliance and community outreach. I'm here to support cannabis businesses to be allowed to operate in the Roxbury Township. As a New Jersey resident, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to the community this evening. I put together a packet of data reports and studies regarding cannabis and its impact at the local and state level. I will follow up with you all later this week via email to provide the links for all the reports. At your convenience, I respectfully ask you to review and please let me know if you have any questions. Bud to Bloom is eager to be a proud local business that helps Roxbury beautify the community, encourage economic development, and operate as a safe, secure cannabis business. Thank you.
Thank you.
And can I submit this to you all right now, the package?
You can
data?
leave it with the clerk.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. If you have it, I'm sure Ariel gave it to you already.
Oh, we got more. We got lots more.
Anybody else in the public wish to be heard? Please raise your hand.
Okay, go ahead.
Name and address for the record.
Hi, Allison Keith, 157 Kings Highway. I just want to speak in favor of Ariel's business. I suffer from anxiety and honestly would not be standing here right now if it weren't for cannabis. And again, the same issue is having to travel 45 minutes away to get this that I so desperately need on a daily basis. So I think it would just be the most amazing thing if you guys would allow Ariel to open a dispensary here in Roxbury. Thanks.
Anybody else wish to be heard? Please raise your hand.
Anybody else?
Any issue.
Anybody else? Right here.
Good evening, everyone, council members, everybody here. My name is Elizabeth Mizrahi, and I'm a resident of Roxbury Township. I live at 40 Fairmont Avenue, lived there for 28 years, and Ariel is my daughter. According to a Leafy study published in September 22, there's only one store for every 358,000 residents in New Jersey. And it is vital that we create a safe, regulated, legal market. Therefore, I believe that it is imperative to end the local prohibition and allow cannabis businesses like Bud to Bloom to operate with Roxbury Township's borders. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to be heard on this or any other issue? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Masillo. I live in Suxana. Good evening, council members. My name is Caitlin Masillo, and I live at 1 Summit Lane, Succothon, New Jersey. I look forward to the positive and economic development and community contributions that cannabis businesses are certain to bring to Roxbury. Ariel's business will support a thriving local business ecosystem, and she is committed to giving back through her passion for volunteerism and community beautification. We are confident that her dispensary will foster local job growth, provide excellent personal use, cannabis education to its customers, and continue to work with us in support of our local initiatives in the Roxbury community. Therefore, I am here tonight to support cannabis businesses coming to Roxbury, and I urge the council to remove cannabis businesses from the prohibited use ordinance currently in place. Thank you in advance for your consideration.
Anybody else in the public wish to be heard? Please raise your hand.
Hi, my name is Evan Cassidy, and I live at 26 Cayuga Avenue in Landing. And I'd like to thank you for the opportunity in advance for your time and attention. I'm here to voice my support for Roxbury for allowing cannabis businesses in town. I have a passion to help and educate people in the cannabis space. With Roxbury allowing cannabis businesses, I would have the opportunity to work in the field closer to my house. Therefore, I ask the city council to consider amending the ordinance that makes cannabis a prohibited use. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else in the public wish to be heard? No? Way too much longer, it's gonna close on you.
Hi, my name is Michael Mariano. I live at 10 Rebecca Court. I'm a lifelong resident of Landing, and as a woman named Gail shared about the opioid epidemic, it's hurt and killed so many of our brothers and sisters. I myself am a victim of that, but one of the lucky ones. God willing, come June 5th, I will have 10 years clean from heroin. It cannot be understated the role that marijuana played in that process for me. I was put on SSRIs, antidepressants for anyone who doesn't know, in genuine efforts, but most of the time left me worse off than before. Sorry, give me a second. When you think of marijuana, you may think of like stoners or lazy people, but it is a tool used, if used appropriately, to provide perspective on what and where you need to work on in improving your life. I cannot recommend Bud to Bloom enough in hopes that if it could provide that perspective I needed at that young age for other young adults or young teenagers in our community, so that they might not go down the same route that I did. It's time to, quite frankly, it's time to drop the dated stigma around marijuana. Thank you.
Anybody else in the public wants to be heard, please raise your hand.
Sure.
How you doing tonight? I'm gonna change the subject if you don't mind.
Name and address for the record.
Ryan Considine, Emmons Road. I have a question about fees and permits. I noticed in the previous revenue from last year, our fees and permits were almost $1 million higher than budget.
Sorry, say that again?
Fees and permit revenue for last year actuals. $900,000 more than budget. My question is that coming mostly from the Hercules planning application?
Nothing's come from Hercules at all.
Nothing's come from it?
No.
No. Why
Mayor.
would we get anything from Hercules?
Well, the application,
One part of it, just the application fee, but yeah.
So-
So I think we get anything from Hercules.
So the application fee, if the application is rejected, does that money have to go back to Hercules?
That part I don't know. Probably not, because it's work that we put into it to review the plan.
Okay.
That's what it's covering. Then they'll eventually have an escrow once we start hearing that application, which will pay for the professionals. But there's no fees coming to the township because they don't have it approved.
Well, so it's more of an application fee, not a permanent. But if they're rejected, I assume they're probably going to instigate some legal action, which will incur costs, or if they're accepted, that'll generate revenue.
The spectrum is all over the place. It could be rejected, it could be a myriad of things that might happen there, or it could be approved.
So right now, we have about $1 million that we got from the application.
No.
No?
yeah, Valerie, answer. Yeah, it's the combined line item, but she'll give you some of the highlights.
Right, the entire line item, fees and permits increased tremendously this year. A lot of it was the application fees that we got from the Harts Mountain project, construction. Some of it is also from some of our new warehouses that are in town, the zoning and permit fees for that. But in hindsight, the fees increased mainly in this planning and zoning area, which included those application fees, as well as others.
So I guess my question for the mayor is, right now, the projection is a slight tax increase.
No, that's what the manager presented to the mayor and council.
Okay.
Mayor and council's now reviewing this, and it could be from anywhere from 0 on up. So, yeah, it's not finished deed.
So the unfinished deed of a slight tax increase, is that assuming the application will be accepted and revenue will come in from it? No. So if the application is rejected and that begins legal
Zero to
action?
do with that. This is it's separate parts. It's not coming into us to use it as a budgetary item. Well, in the sense that it's going towards the professionals in the planning and zoning department.
Right. My question then, I guess, is on the revenue side, because the tax increase obviously has to depend upon the revenue minus the expenses.
Assuming tax increase.
Well, the tax revenue, all the revenue put together, minus the expenses will determine if we need to increase taxes, a little, a lot, or none at all.
Right.
So right now, we're not building any assumption in for either incurring costs to fight over the Harts Mountain or getting revenue from the plan being acceptable and generating revenue.
No, and we can't anticipate revenue either. You probably know, we have, the first year the mall was open, when it opened that year, we couldn't, even though it had opened, let's say some opened in February, we can't use what we anticipate to get from that property until the following year.
Right.
That's why sometimes our fund balance goes up in those years, because we can't anticipate that money. It's illegal for us to anticipate that money. We can't anticipate money until it's on the books. There's nothing on the books from the Hercules property.
So it's possible for all to go well, revenue to come in, and that'll increase our books during the year, helping us in 2024. Or it's possible for us to have unexpected expenses. is what you're saying, that could make it worse.
Yeah, you just said everything. So you say it's possible for everything to happen, that's what you just said.
There won't be any
Yes.
no revenue though in 2023. There's no way anything could happen that fast.
Yeah, exactly, if it was improved,
no
it
chance.
would be probably years before they even
Right.
got off the ground, so. the manager's right.
Well, I assume if they're approved, they must pay additional fees to start work, to even plan for work. It's not nothing until.
You're speculating, I'm not gonna get into a guessing game on something that might happen or might not happen, and the level of which it's gonna happen, the question's really, it's not a question, really.
I understand. Okay, well, thank you very much.
If you're interested, you're hearing the application in March, so.
I'll be there.
Stay tuned. Encouraging people to be involved. Anybody out there, public, if you have any issue, please raise your hand. Seeing none, we're gonna close the public portion. We're gonna go back into the budget. I would like to thank everybody for being, polite and professional about the comments. I've known Ariel for a while now, my parents are here. She's a very good person, great person. Any decisions we make or do not make, not based upon Ariel as a person for sure. I guarantee you. So we're moving back into the budget now. John?
Yeah, if we can pick up, I have a handful more of accounts that I'd like to talk about there. Some of them are more general, rather than departmental, but we still have to go through all of them for council comments and questions. We have a Lake Muscatine Regional Planning Board, and I believe that's the same request as last year, so no changes there, that is in there, with that. Utilities, I'm gonna skip over the library, that could be a departmental question at some point in the future, so I'm gonna skip that, but I'm gonna go to utilities line item. I apologize, I have a page number for you. Thank you, 160, we've made some adjustments there, just again, based on some changes that have impacted us, and, you'll see some of those increases. One of the larger increases, that was one you don't probably think about very much, sub-account 211, fire hydrants. That's actually a chargeback. It comes from not only Roxbury Township, but water department to us, to the general fund of the town. But more than that, it's New Jersey American, and they had a significant rate increase on fire hydrant maintenance that was approved by the BPU.
It was approved by BPU?
At the end of last year. And that impacts our budget. So you'll see a number that ends up being significantly higher than it's been in the past. So of all the things I think about when I think about utilities and gas and electric and things like that, that's one that kind of is off the radar for me. So we have every fire hydrant that in Roxbury Township, if it's owned by New Jersey American, they send us an invoice for related to.
So we contract with them to do the ones for the Roxbury water?
No, we do our own, so we do our piece, but anything that's in their territory, all the fire hydrants that are on their lines, they charge us a maintenance fee for those.
That's not paid by the people that use the water company?
That's correct. It always goes back to even us, we do an internal transfer, our fees significantly less, we do an internal transfer between our water department and our current fund. So it's something that's paid for by the general taxpayers of Roxbury Township, so it benefits everybody, is the fire hydrant. So I just brought that one up because it's kind of a strange one, even when I look at it, I think, wow, it went up that much. So you'll see that line item went up significantly in some of the categories. But if there's any specific questions on those, we certainly can try to answer them.
Questions? Fred?
I gotta be honest with you, I'm looking at these gas charges. I thought it would be a significantly more.
Well, we took a big part of that hit last year. I think in 2022. So it's certainly been better, right? The price of gas has probably been more stable, and then when it went from 2021 to 22, I think we saw a bigger increase.
Yeah, I agree, but then you can tell by the expended, it was even higher than that, but I think the 160 is a conservative number. Any other comments? Seeing none, next.
Again, these are just some, we were Social Security account, just jumping down the ones that, again, just if the council has any questions, This is statutory, Valerie calculates that. Social Security, page 165. I just have some general accounts that, you know, if the council has any questions on those. We have our,
Skip reserve for future fire equipment purchases.
yeah, we don't have that this year. We had that last year, so we saved some of the money for company ones engines. We don't have that this year. Jumping down to our pensions, we have our police pension and then a pension for all the other employees that aren't in the police department. I mentioned that in my cover memo. Those costs have gone up significantly, dictated by the state of New Jersey. They give us the actuarial amount we have to include. So you'll see those numbers that are in there, and they certainly impact our budget. Usually not much to say about them other than they are what they are.
So state mandated.
Yeah, it keeps us funded, fully funded in the pension plans, which is good.
But the increase is 235 plus.
Yeah, that sounds right. You have to do two different funds and add them up. The police was significantly more.
280, almost $300,000.
Probably right without me to add calculate if you're looking at it directly, yeah. And it went up significantly last year. Those are big numbers. Those are real numbers. We have the DCRP, that's for the defined contribution, which isn't the defined benefit plan. I think that number stayed pretty much the same, up by $1,000. And interlocal agreements. Just if there's any questions on these are everything that we have on an interlocal basis where we have an expenditure. So, you know, anything where we're actually spending money rather than revenue. Some of them, you know, we have revenue ones too that you're not seeing here, but we have revenue ones. So anything that you have that you see, obviously the ones you're familiar with Randolph, we have health, the 911 dispatch service with the county.
John, what page you have?
I apologize, that's page 177. 177. Nothing's really changed in here, we just update the numbers. Fire subcode, Mount Olive, I used to be an employee here, we did that one, and, you know, on the revenue side, which again, you're not looking at, on the revenue side, of course, we added the, shared health service program with Chester Township, which has been good for us financially. But these are some of the ones that aren't as critical, but again, you know, I want to just at least mention them in the event council has any questions on them. I was gonna quit, then told me to keep going, so I'm gonna keep going. I'm going to,
Court and LoSAP yet?
yeah, I didn't do court, I will do court. If anybody has any questions on that, I was gonna save that one, but I'm a little bit out of order, but that's okay, I'm just gonna keep going down. I think court stays relatively the same when you look at those numbers.
Any comments?
So, the court's getting back to more in-person sessions, I will say that. Never like it, it'll probably never be again like it was before. If anybody ever came to town hall on a Thursday, you realize how busy we were with in-person, so there's still a lot of activity. There's certainly more in-person trials for things that are more of a magnitude, but a lot of their other work is being conducted through Zoom and those sorts of mechanisms. So there's still activity, just not as many people in the building.
Moving on LoSAP. I'm actually surprised by the amount of spending.
Yeah, LoSAP is number, Valerie, you're better with that number than me, so I'm gonna, if you have any, I think we get the sheets back from the fire departments, correct, on the numbers? Right?
Yeah, I get the sheets back from the fire department.
So I think we're okay budget-wise on that, we've had that at that 70,000 for a little bit budget-wise. So I think we're okay.
Yellow mean you're taking it out next year?
What's that?
Does yellow mean you're taking it out next year?
It just means that's a number that I'm not quite 100% sure about. Yeah. We're actually, right now is when they post the numbers and I start to get, in the next month or two, I'll start to get a better actual number
I think
of
they
what it's gonna cost. Yeah, they posted it already, but, and then it has to sit there for 30 days and then they give it to me.
So, and it's based on calls and stuff like that, correct?
Yes, based on the number of calls, and it goes up, we get the number from the DCA, it goes up based on the CPI, the index, so that did increase a little bit this year. The per call amount.
It's a convoluted formula, I used to take care of those numbers. It's not easy.
It's not easy.
No, it's
Right.
not.
I'm gonna stop
You know what, let me hit a few more, because I got a bunch that are, they're gonna be really easy. I do, I have some really easy ones.
Thanks, John.
Easy. Bond principal, nothing there, there's just, we don't have any outstanding bonds. Note,
You skip capital improvement.
that's, capital improvement is just how much we ultimately put in the capital improvement fund.
Okay.
Right, so whatever that number ends up being, we'll plug that in to the budget. Note principal, we do have $100,000, that's the money we bring in from the Recreation Trust Fund. That pays off our turf field and our grass field project from a few years ago. So you'll see that money in there. No bond interest, there's no bonds. Note interest we have included in there. Valerie factors that in, and she may update that number because she did the bond or the note sale recently.
That number will be included in next year's budget.
Okay, so that number's a good
This
number,
number's a
that's
good
good number for this year, thank you. So that's one that, again, we pay that off with our, with the trust fund, with the recreation fund. And then I'm gonna do just loan repayments, I think Green Acres, that's one we have in there, that's still an outstanding loan we have from some years ago, small amount of money, at some point that'll be paid off, I don't know which year.
You got the email, as I did about the Green Acres loan money, the Green Acres.
Yes.
Project.
Yeah.
Where are we at with expending those funds?
I think the only project we have right now is one potential property purchase, which was mentioned in that letter. I don't think that property's going to happen, and even if it would, Mayor, the value of the property from an assessed standpoint is so low.
12, 13.
Green Acres would give us only a very small amount of money, so I don't think we're not risking much, and I think Councilman Crowley would tell you, that one's just this very slow roller.
Probably not gonna happen.
So we have the, pool trust loan, that's one already been paid off, so that's still in our budget. Reserve for uncollected, we don't talk about that too much, that's a number we put in there every year to account for any money that isn't collected in taxes that we have to pay the other taxing agencies, so we're comfortable with the 1.8 million, that number has been consistent over the past few years. And that's it, because I would stop there, then at the next meeting, we'll certainly be talking about, engineering in our two utility funds, and possibly if council, we'll talk about the health department, including animal control and the library. We also can, we could also update council on the questions we have from this evening.
I did speak to the manager this evening before the meeting about the capital plan, and we'll get something out to you, hopefully for next meeting. Ready?
What's our collection rate this year, John?
It's gotta be 98 point something percent, I don't have
think
these,
that's what I heard.
I don't have the exact,
Yeah, it's up in the.
it's 98 point something, I just don't have the point
You
part.
missed that meeting, Fred. It was in there. It was slightly lower than last year by 10 points.
Very minor difference, always a very, very good rate, which is fabulous, because if it wouldn't be that 1.8 million for
That's why I'm.
reserve for uncollected could be a,
Buying back the reserve.
could be a problem.
Okay.
And keep in mind, that reserve fund collected is not just the municipal side of the budget, it's for the schools, the county.
That's the school's the big piece.
Yeah.
I mean, the school's the big piece of that, we provide them all their revenue, even if it isn't collected.
Like it or not. Like it.
New Jersey way,
We're done, Joe.
correct, thank you.
Correct. All right. Moving on, draft ordinances, we have none. Introduction of proposed ordinances, we have none. Hearing and adoption of ordinances on second reading, we have none. Introduction and adoption of resolutions, we have none. Personnel changes, we have none. Communications, we have none. That brings us to our second public portion of the evening. Would anybody in the public wish to be heard on any issue, please raise your hand. Yes, ma'am.
Hello again, council. My name is Ariel Mizrahi and I live at 12 Rockers Drive, Landing, New Jersey. I just wanted to say that unfortunately, due to a variety of reasons, some members of the community were not able to join us here tonight. However, a few of them asked that I present a written testimonial to the council on their behalf. I'm gonna give you guys those in a second. But I want to say that my company, Bud the Balloon, believes in the positivity and healing powers of cannabis and plants in general. Much the way that flowers bloom into their final forms, people grow throughout their lives. That is why it is our mission to create a place that is fresh, inspiring, and uplifting. But most importantly, it is our vision to create a safe place that is truly rooted in community. Bud to Bloom is committed to doing anything that we can to make Roxbury a better place to live and work. As we grow, we want our guests in the community to grow alongside of us. By choosing to allow cannabis businesses like Bud to Bloom to operate in Roxbury, the council would be increasing tax revenues that could go towards education and other township needs, increasing foot traffic to other local businesses in town, creating additional jobs and opportunities for residents, investing into the architectural landscape of Roxbury through beautification projects, offering their residents with access to safe and regulated products that have been lab tested by licensed operators, putting the illicit market out of business, donating to local nonprofit charities and recreational teams and clubs, offering other local businesses the opportunity to participate in local job fairs, making it easier for medical patients to get access to their medicine, educating the community on state and local regulations and proper consumption, offering additional resources to those suffering from mental health and addiction, and inspiring the community to live a more wellness-focused life. The state allows municipalities to add an additional user tax of up to 2% of all sales transactions. That could be allocated to our town's needs as well as assist with raising the township's rateable tax income, potentially lowering the taxes for all residents. By making cannabis businesses prohibited use, the town is choosing to lose out on generating additional tax revenues that could directly supplement the deficiencies in our budget that we talk about tonight. Therefore, halting necessary capital improvements from happening in our town. In addition, it prevents reinvestment in our community on things like youth substance education and prevention, law enforcement, and extracurricular activities. The people of Roxbury and our neighboring communities deserve affordable access to lab-tested cannabis now. By taking the wait-and-see approach, the council is handing over sales revenue and other economic opportunities to other towns. I urge the council to end the local prohibition of cannabis businesses so that our community may commercially and economically bloom into its final form. Thank you.
Anybody else in the public wish to be heard on any issue, please raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll close public portion. We do not have an executive session. A motion to adjourn, please.
I'll make that motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Can I just give you these on the record still?